Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is September 11th, 2024. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Please subscribe. Also want to thank Kelly Kuvo for introducing us to today's guest, Jeffrey Dorchen. Is that the correct way to say it, Jeffrey?
That's how you say it.
And where in the heck you calling in from?
I'm sorry?
Where are you calling in from?
Oh, I'm in right now. I'm in South Carolina, Malden, South Carolina.
All right. First question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being, uh, I guess you got to start with air. Air is a good thing. Um, you know, the opportunities to survive and live and get what you want. Opportunity.
Good. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
I really like watching things. But I also like reading. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I don't get it unless I read it.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of both, like screens or books.
Books. Yeah. Let's go off on reading for a second. Did you become a reader, one, because your parents told you to, two, they did it as an example, or three, on your own?
I guess I mean they taught me how to read. I learned how to read pretty early. Uh, I think I read Edgar Allan Poe because I was reading Peanuts, and there was a Peanuts comic strip where Charlie Brown gets caught in a tree by his kite string, and he's hanging upside down. And Linus is telling Lucy about the pit and the pendulum and uses him as he walks by to demonstrate the pendulum. And that got me reading Edgar Allan Poe. I've been reading Poe since and he's hard. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily understand him completely now, but I mean, he's very dense and
Yeah.
verbose.
Well, we love Poe in our study groups because basically Poe invented effects precede causes, which is reasoning backwards, which is the detective novel. And he
Yeah.
spawned the symbolist poets, and then they spawned all the rock poets. It doesn't matter what you say, it's the effect you want to have on people. So that's really heavy. You started right off in our realm. Thank you, Jeffrey. So
Sure.
why do you think people collect or gather information?
People do it for all kinds of reasons. They're just basically curious. Often people want to prove things and justify things about what they enjoy or how they live or what they what they think is important to them. Uh, yeah.
Well, that's good. Let's go there. Is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
I think people need to learn things. I don't see how you start out as a baby and get very far if you ignore people. And there's just no way not to learn things just by being alive.
Yeah. Do
I mean,
thoughts create?
if a baby's not learning how to smile or interact, people are scared. They talk to
Yeah.
their doctor. They say, "What's
Yeah.
wrong?"
Yeah. No, that's good. Do thoughts create emotions?
I think they do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have experienced cognitive or narrative therapy, but I have noticed from reading about cognitive therapy and doing narrative therapy with a therapist that there are actually statements behind a lot of negative thinking because I've been depressed since I was very young, and I uh, I think there are statements behind your assumptions, and if you examine them, you can actually dismantle bad feelings.
It's really well put. Fill in the blank, Jeffrey. I don't know what I think until I
Eat it. No, I
I've never had that answer. Finally, eat it.
that's just the association. I don't know what I mean.
No, that's first thought, best thought. That's what I'm after. Look at I'm after
Uh,
your hunch, your guess, tangents, stories. I'm after anything. You don't have to answer the question, but listen, you know what well, first of all, McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. Most people, or a tendency is, I don't know what I think until I do it or experience it. But eat it, I've never had. So out of 40 years of interviewing thousands, you're the first. Eat it. Can humans think without language?
yes, but they don't.
That's good. Because Chomsky says the language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
I think people go insane. I and I'm not even sure. Obviously, when you talk about culture, cultures have norms. Cultures are the definers of norms, and so if the whole culture is insane, you're normal.
That's
You're just
amazing.
normal
That's
or insane.
another great McLuhan line. You can't prove you're sane unless you have discharge papers from a mental hospital.
This is
But
true.
but again, let's go back, Jeffrey, for a second, because what do you do when language breaks down? Go insane. I don't think that's your strategy, is to go insane. I'm asking you that language breaks down and people go insane. What do you do when people go insane?
I see. Oh, I don't know. I've got a lot of images now in my head. I think you really just gotta, uh, you've got to find other ways to
Yeah,
perform your communication,
yeah,
and or you can also give up and become a hermit,
yeah,
even a hermit in the world.
yeah. I mean, that's what Leonard Cohen did, right? He says, "Oh, I'm going to go live in a monastery now." Yeah, right. Okay, so your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
I think we're more semi-rational. Uh, I
Yeah,
mean, it's a real blend
yeah,
because, but in a lot of ways, rationality is a delusion and an illusion, and it's hard to keep your feelings out of it. So I don't see how you make any choices without feelings.
yeah. It's like we invented the words feeling and thinking, so we think we can separate them. They're so connected. But like
Yeah.
Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. And I'm like, good luck. How can you turn your brain off? It's like people meditate. They go, okay, think about not thinking. There's a bumper sticker on a car on my street. It says, don't believe everything you think. I go, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
This is true. This is true. I mean, it's really hard. So there's a friend of mine who likes to post uh, on where does he post on Substack? He posts quotations. He does post a lot of things, but he posts quotations, and one of the quotations was from Schopenhauer. And I was like, first of all, I disagree with this quotation from Schopenhauer. Makes me very uncomfortable. It was about like, oh, the person who thinks things that other people don't think makes them uncomfortable because they don't have the courage to think differently. And I was like, that just sounds like Joe Rogan to me. But I started I started reading an essay called The Wisdom of Life
Yeah.
Schopenhauer, and already I'm just like arguing with it through the very beginning. He's dividing up consciousness between inner consciousness and external experience, and then he's saying your internal life is so much more important than what you have externally. And I was just like, this is such a oddly, I mean, it's kind of interesting that we're examining privilege now in our discourse. The left is anyway, because it's a very privilege. It's an interesting way to look at things. It's like often, had I heard an argument like that when I was younger and didn't have this language, I might have gone,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something wrong with that. What if a person, is sick and they don't feel good, and it's like that. It's like you can't create reality entirely. All right. You can't make yourself happy all the time. And you shouldn't make yourself happy all the time. And you shouldn't go, oh yeah, everything's great. My life is fantastic. I live on the, we're doing things to the planet. I'm not looking for things to complain about, although that's just because I'm not in that mood right now. I sometimes am looking for things to complain about. In fact, that's my job. My only paying job right now is to complain on the podcast. This is hell.
Well, it's really funny because most of what you just said is what we're going to cover. And I appreciate it. You're anticipating you must have ESP. But it did remind me of one line I like to repeat. I don't know if I really agree with it, but I think it's a cute aphorism. Warhol, there's nothing more bourgeois than dissing the bourgeois. So here's two from Alan Turing, 1950s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
That is interesting. 'Cause, I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, all these depend on digging through definitions and digging into definitions, because does a machine that calculates think?
Yeah.
Is it thinking? Are ones taking pathways through a series of ones and zeros? Is that a thought process? Is simple calculation thinking? And even then, if it is, does the soul calculate things? And is there a soul? How do you find that? And what does it look like? And what does it do?
Well, you're answering a question with a question. You win. That's what this series is all about. Inventing new questions. And how about
I'm great at this.
How about this for ESP? The next Turing question is, can machines think?
Oh, interesting. It depends how you define thinking. If calculating is thinking, or following, obviously following a program, instructions, I guess that sounds like thinking. It's not creative thinking, but it's a kind of thinking.
Yeah.
It's a kind of moving decisions through time.
Yeah. I like that. Just using the word creative thinking there. Okay. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Oh man. I'm lately, I'm old now. I used to pursue meaning, but then I pursued happiness a lot too, but it's hard to have happiness without meaning. Meaningless happiness doesn't mean anything, and so you can't really be happy. And I hate to agree with Schopenhauer on this, but there's a certain depth. See, there's a paradox or a contradiction in this Schopenhauer description. It's like, well, the brilliant intellect can be happier, can enjoy happiness to a greater depth, and the drunk, boorish man can only watch the Flintstones. And I'm like, well, what about so are we saying that if we're downgrading, we're saying external things aren't important, your reputation isn't important. Number one, how do you know if you're one of the highly intelligent people enjoying things the way they should be enjoyed?
Yeah.
But also, if you can enjoy things so well, doesn't it seem like then you deserve all these honors and all the finer things of life, the external finer things, the better food because your taste is better, and things like it gets twisted, or it gets entangled in, I think, a kind of happiness capitalism.
Happiness, capitalism, what two words? Now, listen, what you really evoke is I spent half my life at the corner right here, Venice and Lincoln Boulevard, waiting for the light to change on my bicycle. And I look down and there's a guy in the gutter smiling, and all the people in the cars are tense and like, ugh. I like, what's wrong with this picture here? He's the happy one and everyone else is, that's like, you really nailed it. Happiness, capitalism. So I got the question from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. He says, happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning does.
Interesting. I also, well, I remember I used to go through philosophies very rapidly. They last about 6 months. I
Yeah.
go, oh my God, Taoism, so brilliant. I understand it. I feel it. It's like viscerally in me now. And then
Yeah.
it would dissolve, fade away in a few months. I'd have to look for something. Existentialism was another one. I was like, well, I mean, it's depressing, but it's so interesting. It's
Yeah.
like you felt like an alien dropped in human society.
Yeah.
Just like things like that would, and maybe this is a superficial way of experiencing meaning, but when you experience through your whole body, why would that be a lower kind of experiencing meaning, I wonder?
Yeah. That's good wonderment. So, does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away, and are we more so detecting it or more so creating it?
That's interesting. There, we're that's the hard problem, what they call the hard problem. Where is consciousness? They
Yeah.
don't know how it comes about. So I mean, I've always been like, yeah, the universe is alive and
Yeah.
there's consciousness. And so I think that we're like running along it. It's like the particle in the wave. We're the particle version of consciousness.
You know what Frank Zappa calls it? The wavicle.
Ah,
And he didn't make that up, but it's from an old, it's the blend of the wave and the particle. So what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
good question. I'm gonna say the speed of light just because my thoughts are slow.
Audre Lorde, the poet, said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer responded to her and said, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
Well, it's funny because I recently criticized that particular quotation of Audre Lorde. I said, why can't you use the master's tools? The master probably doesn't, he probably hires people to use his tools. They're probably not even his, or,
Yeah,
a worker probably uses them. So why can't the worker use them to dismantle the house?
exactly. We do it all the
So
time.
whatever, I mean, new tools.
But
It's funny that we're still looking for new tools after, like, well, let's just say 10,000 years, because it's
yeah,
probably longer, but
but here's,
there's
let me just explain, Jeffrey. I open some of these questions with cute quotes. You don't have to put you put the question in the context you want. Just to suss this one out, it's more like,
Mhm.
what tool do you most gravitate towards? You can add the word new if you want, and you can apply it like you did, and you sussed out Audrey's quote so well. So what, it's more like, what tool do you most gravitate towards?
Right. Well, obviously language and
Yeah.
Language and I don't know. I mean, it's taken me a real long time to communicate. Like most of my writing up until, well, at least up until adulthood, but even past that was about me expressing things, but I wasn't thinking about audiences
Yeah.
necessarily, or I wasn't thinking about, or maybe I was thinking more about audiences than, uh, discussion partners, dialogue partners.
Yeah.
And that, I think, I think it's it's been a struggle for me to communicate things because and to learn that not everybody knows what's going on in your mind, and you've got to check back. You got to look, and you got to look and see where you jumped from one step to another without the bridge.
The
And
bridge.
so that really is like examining, trying to look at it, trying to listen to yourself and say, "Gee, I mean, I get where I'm going, but I don't know. I think I gotta be a little more complete here, and uh, add a few steps in between."
Sounds like the word commonality. I think we're all trying to find a commonality to communicate. But what year were you born?
1962.
62. Yeah, we're about 10 years different. I was born as 53. So this is good. So, um, what new toy do you suggest?
What new toy?
Yeah.
All right, so what new toy? I love cooking. I like nonstick pans. I think they are a great tool for making omelets, and I like learning to flip an omelet. I just think people should learn to flip. There's a when you're
Technique to
cooking
it.
something in a skillet, you can kind of, if you've ever seen a real grill cook, which I have been a real grill cook, but I didn't learn this technique till much later. Um, if you got like potatoes in a
Yeah.
pan and you got to flip them, you can't, obviously you can pick them up one by one and turn them over, or you can keep going like this so that they pop up
Yeah.
out of the edge but don't fly out. They
Yeah.
fall back in, and you keep doing that, and that is such a and then trying to flip a whole omelet or just an egg is it's a
Cul-
fun thing. I think that I'm really getting into that.
It's culinary art. It's artistry. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Oh, geez. uh if I've been an asshole to someone,
Yeah.
usually that's, if I'm worried, that's usually it. It's like, have I burned some bridge? Have I said so? 'Cause my mother once told me long time ago, when I was a child, that mouth of yours is going to get you in big trouble one day. I'm always afraid of that. She also said, because I was skinny when I was little, she said, you're gonna get fat. And that happened. So I'm worried about this mouth getting me in trouble, kind of. And it's gotten me in trouble in more than once.
Yeah.
But that's what I worry about when if I'm worried in bed, that's what it is.
McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Jeffrey, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
I don't know. We do. I think the scientists are looking more at that. But also a lot of people just want to enjoy what you have this, you have technology, and you just want to use it,
Yeah.
and you don't really want to think about what invisible or expected, unplanned uh, consequences
Yeah.
might be coming about.
Do
It's
artists have
just
more?
it's I don't know if it's just like it's a little bit of that come on, instant gratification. It's
Yeah.
like you want what's there on the surface and easy to grab.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have to probe and then think about it and then wonder. That's just why people don't like hearing about their history and thinking about, oh, we did take away that country. We took away their country and took all their gold and oil and uranium, and now they are a poor country because of us.
Yep.
We just look at it's so funny how people are like, yeah, that's a poor country. It's like things got that way. They didn't start yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't know what happens to their batteries on their cell phone. It doesn't matter. I just need to use it. I know what you're talking about. That's really good. Do artists have moral obligation?
Yes. Yes, but I mean, everybody does.
Yeah.
It's not just artists. It's just that artists have, especially if they have an audience, they really have an obligation not to be just jerks and really think about what advantages they have and how they're negotiating, what's helping them through life that other people might need or don't have, and if you can right now, the one thing that I'm trying to do to contribute is I just really think that a lot of the world's problems could be solved if there wasn't so much wealth and power inequality, because I don't think it could be permanently solved, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters who you are, but you gotta be conscious of when the playing field is slanted in your favor, and admit it and be conscious of it. And if you can balance things out, that's what my theater company, when we had a theater, I'm still in it. It's still around, by the way. I just haven't worked with it for a long time, but it's an anarchist collective. It's like we weren't great at it because the men were much noisier and pushier than the women, but we tried and we talked about it. We talked things through. Hopefully you're always growing. You think about ways to change, ways to be better, ways to help other people.
That's the great attitude. We want to make the world a better place, but I like what you said because it reminds me of my term is awareness level. Where's your awareness level? You can actually participate and understand there's some sort of awareness going on. So are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Oh, that's a good question. I think old ones. I mean, especially now that we've seen like all the questions about whether a woman should have autonomy over her own body, or whether it should be very scrutinized whether a state is trying to take away Black people's ability to vote easily. I mean, these things, we thought they were solved, and here they are again. And for like up to 2016, I was able to fool myself and go, it's still a toss up. Are we advancing? And no, I mean, it's not. If we keep returning, we keep cycling back, if we're going to have another, not like 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s in Europe, we can't do that. I don't want to be alive for that.
Yeah.
That's just like, I mean, we're already doing too many things that I can't stand. And I wish I could do actual things. And there's a lot of people doing activism, but I'm an old guy. I can't stand up for a long time. I don't like other people that much. I don't like chanting.
Yeah. No, I would say I don't want to be hit by rubber bullets but can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
I remember being I think I've told myself I was 3. It was definitely before we moved from Detroit, the city of Detroit, to one of the suburbs. And so it was before 1960, maybe 1965, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, I just remember crawling on the carpet, and it was a salt and pepper black and white carpet,
Yeah. Is
not a
memory
shag carpet.
is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Memory is neither a curse nor a blessing because memory is faulty.
Yeah.
And so you keep rewriting your memories, and the description of memory as a palimpsest or a thing that is being repainted or overwritten, or when you supposedly they did some experiment, I don't know how they did this, where they tested if people constantly are remembering something, recalling something, tell a story, uh, they remember it worse, remember it
Yeah.
less accurately than someone who recalls it after not having thought of it for years. That's supposedly, I don't know how you would test such a thing. In fact, I might just be talking out of my butt here. That's like
No, it's true.
something I heard. It sounds like Haitians eating people's pets, but it might be a little bit more. I mean, it's less dangerous than
Yeah.
saying that, I think.
Um, Tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
In my immediate family,
Yeah, and then outside. Yeah.
my immediate family. I mean, I can't. I mean, my father was the most. It wasn't necessarily always a good impact, but he was the biggest presence. My parents,
What did you mainly get from your dad, would you say? How would you sum it up?
the opposite of a work ethic. Not
Wow.
that he didn't have a work ethic. He had a work ethic, but he made me hate work. He like he's not gonna he I've thought of this a bunch of times, so I'm probably thinking of it wrong. But I think I was 7 years old. He once stood me next to a huge pile of dirt with a shovel and said, "Shovel that dirt into your sandbox, and then you'll have a sandbox." And I was like, it was taller than me, and I was looking at it, and he just left me alone. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And I just walked away. And that
Wow.
was what I learned about work. It just has stuck with me for a really long time. And it's unfortunate uh, because now I treasure lethargy and laziness and apathy, and I'm trying to make virtues out of them because
Yeah.
I mean, even though I do make stuff, and if I talk to people about what I'm doing, they're like, "Oh, you're not lazy. You're active. You look at what you're doing. You're writing a novel. You're about to finish this novel. You're about to do this. You're about to do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can spend hours just staring into space."
That's like George Carlin saying, whatever happened to letting kids stare out the window? But, I love that you said that because I sometimes ask this question, where'd you get your work ethic from? And 99% of people say from their parents. And it's funny because the work ethic entry in Wikipedia about the third paragraph down says, this could be a scam from consumer capitalism. So what your dad taught you might have been the coolest thing because he taught you how to slack. He kind of taught you that, well, whatever you morphed it into that being lazy can be productive, and lazy isn't necessarily bad. It's like chilling out, because then that might lead you to being able to write your novel because you chilled out,
This is true. Oh, I mean, a lot of writing is people make fun of this, but a lot of writing is staring at things looking like you're not doing anything.
That's it. Exactly. So now
And if you're doing that at a desk, you're definitely writing.
no, it's you stare at a piece of paper. So what same question outside your immediate family. Someone who had an impact on you, and what was the impact?
Well, I think my writing partner, who is sort of we haven't written together for a really long time, but I met him when we were 9 years old, and we've been friends ever since. And I just think he has, of all my friends, he's been the most constant influence and the person I've like argued in my head
Yeah.
about things with most, and argued about things in real life most. It's funny because we are really very different. Like,
Wow.
he is just a person who he's every moment he's awake, he's doing things. He focuses on things. He learns things that are very difficult pretty quickly. He's engaged with people a lot. He talks on the phone a lot. Can't talk on the phone. I dread talking on the phone. And we have very different attitudes about life and what it's worth, and what the value is of just like hanging on when the quality of life is not necessarily wonderful. And it's but he has, nevertheless, I don't have to think of like him to have been influenced by him.
Yeah.
I think about what he thinks about and what he's doing.
Yeah. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Did they raise me what now?
A particular religion.
Um, well, they raised me culturally Jewish, but they were natural agnostics. They just didn't. I was like, asked my dad things like what would happen, what happens when you die, or what is there a God, and he would go, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like he didn't go, oh, nobody knows. It's one of those mysteries. Just like, what? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like he never thought about it.
Do you pray?
I more meditate than pray. I have prayed in the past. I was in yeshiva for 2 weeks in Jerusalem, and so I learned to pray. But I haven't found prayer to be a great thing.
Yeah.
It just seems like and prayer can be like a more of a meditation.
Yeah.
So I don't want to diss anybody's prayers if they want to pray. If it's contemplation, but petition and hoping things will go the way you want them to, or hoping people will be safe in a dangerous situation. I just think that's not. I don't know. That it makes me feel uncomfortable. I just think, trying to get some imaginary power to do something.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I said to
Doesn't
this
seem
woman,
fruitful.
yeah, I said to this woman, "Do you pray?" And she goes, "Yeah, for parking spaces." But if God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Hey, you tried.
Do evil people exist, or is evil use people as a vehicle?
Evil people exist. I think. I mean, yeah, and I don't think evil exists outside of people.
Yeah.
I think evil is what you do and say, and your there are people with malicious. I mean, I've known people who are just like malicious, just
Yeah.
not happy unless they're hurting somebody, involved in ruining their lives.
Well, the hidden question really, Jeffrey, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole
Uh-huh.
from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
That is an amazing. If you can think that way and actually live that way, that is incredible. If you think, yeah, I don't want enemies, so I'm just not going to acknowledge that I have any.
Yeah. But if
That's
a youngster came to you and said, "Hey, someone's bullying me," or they wanted your advice on how to deal with an enemy, what would you say?
I mean, obviously, it would depend on so many variables, but you know, who said we had four little choices there? One of them was, uh, I mean, obviously, the thing to do is figure out what if you can figure out what's making the person tick and show them some understanding. That would be incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a guy who goes around to he's this black guy who goes around to KKK events. Have you seen this guy? He makes friends with. He converted a grand dragon into a, a friend, and
Wow.
that is an amazing talent, an amazing gift that not a lot of people have. But a little kid getting bullied doesn't have that kind of time
Yeah.
or patience. So I don't know. I mean, I had enemies when I was a kid, and I got bullied when I was a kid, and just gotta you just gotta try to get away from those people, try to stay away from them,
Yeah.
and but also I was a coward as a kid. I was like, well, I don't want to wear weird clothes because then I'll be picked out of the crowd, and once you're picked out of the crowd, you're a target.
Yeah.
So my advices would not be very good because uh, I would be reliving those kind of things. Maybe the little kid could help me figure out what
Oh,
to do.
that's beautiful. Jeffrey, this is Nassim Taleb. Games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. My
Uh,
friend said, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. Gregory Bateson says, when the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of prompts. You can go wherever you want, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
I'm getting a little frozen here.
Yeah.
Can you
The
repeat
basic
that?
question the basic question is, does punishment work?
Oh no,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. There's a whole bunch of really smart, good people working on restorative justice,
Yeah.
and I think that is the way to go. They've done amazing things. They've had rapists and rape victims come to some kind of uh, peace between each other, like
Yeah.
a reconciliation of the perpetrator really feeling apologetic and understanding what he's done, and the victim coming to closure with, I really feel like I had to talk to this person and tell them how much they've taken from me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't repair anything really, or it doesn't, it doesn't change the fact that the crime happened. Punishment doesn't either.
Yeah. Okay, for instance, I don't want to go too far in this tangent. It ain't worth our time and energy. But if Trump gets thrown in jail, can't run for president, writes a book and says, I'm sorry, I did wrong, would you forgive him?
Oh, no. but obviously I'm anticipating the way he would do that. And it would not be believable. I mean, maybe if he became a black Muslim in prison, that would be something I could say, wow, that guy really changed.
Yeah.
If he came out like Malcolm X.
Yeah, no, very good. But that's like Mark Twain said it best, I thought. Forgiveness is the smell the flower gives off when the foot steps on it.
That guy really had a gift for words.
Amazing. Another guy who had it is James Joyce. He was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Because we don't get to see all facets of life.
Yeah.
Most, I would say very close to 100% of the universe is not accessible to our senses and our experience. And, so you see about a fragment and most of the universe isn't human society. So imagine how, so we see more of human society than the rest of the universe, but even that we don't see much of. You really just see and hopefully other people can communicate. I mean, you can sit there and let somebody talk about their experiences, or you can't experience what they have experienced unless they communicate it with you, and you can't experience everything yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. It's like learning how to see outside yourself.
It's beautiful. It's like you reminded me of Bob Dylan said, don't ever tell anyone everything you know. He learned that from the Bible. And I'm always like, if me and you met at a cocktail party and I'm like, we're talking away, and then I'm like, Jeffrey, tell me everything you know, and I want to tell you everything I know. It's like, but this goes along with just running through, Jeffrey, briefly your through line and especially your tipping point. So to have writing be your calling, like you're reading, Peanuts, and then you see the reference to Poe, and then you start reading Poe. Where did you start going, well, I can do that, I can write? Where's your tipping point? Like, what'd you study in high school and college? Was it creative writing or writing? And that sort of through line, how did you come to that tipping point?
I think somebody told me I could write well when I was in second grade.
Yeah.
And I believed them.
Yeah.
And that's it. I believe.
Well, then did you study it? Did you study it in high school and college? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had creative writing. Yes, I did creative writing. I learned creative writing from other people, and I had a creative writing tutor at University of Michigan. That's always been part of my studying. I read books. I read The Art of Fiction by John Gardner. I read How to Do This, How to Do That by so-and-so. I read Aristotle and his whole thing, but really had very little tolerance for it. And yeah,
Well,
I mean, yeah,
it's funny because when you said Detroit earlier, I was going to, I was in Flint, Michigan from my birth till 18. Then I was in Ann Arbor for 8 years from 72 to 80. What years were you at U of M?
I was at U of M from 82 to 87, 88. Moved to
Great.
Chicago in 88.
Well, that's amazing because you anticipated the next question. A screenwriting teacher at the University of Michigan told me, great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing fiction? Then you can say when you're writing nonfiction. Let's divide them.
I think when I'm writing fiction, I rely more than I would like to on communicating my intention as a writer instead of expressing what is meant to express. I'm doing that less. I'm taking each part of uh, a passage or just part of a narrative and going, well, this part now this is what I'm going to do here. This is what, and just trying to accomplish that, trying to communicate that instead of going, I want them to see how funny I think this is, or know that I know who so and so is. And it's like I can be very shallow writing and trying to really I'm trying to counteract a lot of bad habits, bad thinking. Yeah,
You
really
mean
just like
that you developed over the years of being a writer?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
it's still going on though.
but that's very interesting. That's an ongoing process. But that's like Duchamp saying there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your reader when you're writing fiction, and how much are you thinking of your reader when you're writing nonfiction? Say you're
So
political.
my nonfiction, most of my nonfiction is for uh for the podcast, the radio show, This Is Hell, which is a current affairs show. And so I'm thinking about them a lot. Like I'm thinking because they're an opinionated audience, and most of them are left to far left. And so I've got a lot of sometimes I used to be much more like, I've got this opinion that not everybody's going to like. And so I'm going to try to express it in a way that will seduce them into thinking that it's funny. And maybe if they think it's funny, it'll be logical or something. And I would be frustrated next week when people hadn't gotten it. They didn't change. They didn't understand that I made this point. I explained it so well that you can't just go say this and that and have that be true. But here they are saying the same. Like literally, I mean, I'm 62 years old. You would think by now that I would know. You can't, not feel frustrated. Anyway, I don't feel as frustrated now. I'm much more detached. I'm much more about communicating and just letting people sit with it, do what they want with it, rather than going, you got it. You see what I understand. You see what I explained. You have to admit your outlook has to change. You can't say the same thing anymore.
But how are you getting their reactions from comments and comment sections, or is
there'll be comments, there'll be
emails and comments, but it's not two-way talk radio.
No. There's no call-in thing going on.
And so McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth, shutter and a camera extends our eyelid, maybe even non-tangible like religion or philosophy extends consciousness. What does the writing utensil extend for you? Whether it's a pen or a keyboard, what humanness does the writing utensil extend?
I think it's the inner turmoil. It's really whatever it's like the gut flora. It's stuff flourishing in there. It's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily bile. It's not necessarily agony.
Yeah.
It's whatever's alive in there that's going on. That is, you know, it's the it's extending what's inside through whatever barrier is, the skin, the skull. Get outside that. Take, yeah, consciousness
Yeah.
maybe, but I
You're
do have a
you're
lot of
yeah. You're a wordsmith. That was really well put. This one Italian poet says, "What does it extend?" He goes, "My tears." But I love this inner turmoil in gut flora. That is great words, Jeffrey. And that reminds me of another Michigander who made it really big, Mike Kelly. He says, "Art is making your problems other people's problems." Any
oh, that's great.
any comment?
Man, that is, it's so funny because I often feel like that's a negative byproduct of what I'm doing, but I should really think of it as the entire project. It's
Yeah,
not a bug, it's a feature. I am literally trying to convince you that everything I'm annoyed by, you should be annoyed by, and
yeah,
everything I'm in favor of, you should be in favor of. Now, I I'm also a satirist, so
yeah,
a lot of satire is saying the opposite, not and resigning yourself to the fact that you can't change people's minds just by directly telling them what
no,
you think. You
yeah,
might have to, parables.
yeah,
You might have to just tell them in an inside out way. You might even be telling yourself things in an inside out way.
yeah. Well, here's the other one, the poet Fanny Howe. The point of art is to show people that life is worth living by showing that it isn't. Now, I don't know what that one means, but I'm curious if you have any take on that one.
Well, I immediately think of the myth of Sisyphus by Camus,
Yeah,
and how he's like, we must imagine Sisyphus happy because he really doesn't have a lot of obligations. All he's got to do is do this thing. He's got a guaranteed, I don't think Camus said this, but he's got a guaranteed employment. The rock's never going to stay up on the hill. It's going to roll back down. He's going to have to roll it up the next day. There's like, unless you're naturally unhappy, you're existing. Once you're existing, it can plague you. You can let it plague you. You can look for things to plague you, which I do often just to mock them,
yeah,
have some fun. But yeah, it's like you take a situation. I think that's interesting. You take a situation where it looks like. Did you ever read Primo Levi?
I
The
know about him, but I haven't. Tell me what you're going to say. I'm very
So
interested.
he had a book called, or he has a book called the Drowned and the Saved. Oh
Yeah.
no, not the Drowned and the Saved. Moments of Reprieve.
Okay.
Moments of Reprieve is like he's in Auschwitz, and there are moments when he was in Auschwitz when he felt not numb and not miserable.
Yeah.
And they're very interesting. Just very interesting project. Very interesting to attempt to
Yeah.
express that and tell people, yeah, you know, I mean, you got to imagine. There's an Instagram account of these three friends in Gaza who are in the war zone in Gaza, and they are happy. A lot of times they're not happy because things got blown up and people died, but they also do things little things. They go and get themselves water, and there's just like there is they are still friends. They haven't lost each other.
Yeah. This is close to what McLuhan learned from Joyce and Finnegan's Wake. How do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? And how do you turn a rejection into a redirection? It's the flipping. But let's go. We're going to get into that really soon. But let's go to this one, Jeffrey. What was the motive of the cave artist? What's your guess or hunch?
I think to just tell other people that they were there.
Yeah.
I mean, just thinking of the hands,
Yeah.
the spray paint hands. I've seen those. I've seen
Yeah.
them in South Africa,
Yeah.
and I know they exist in other places, and they just seem like such a interesting symbolic expression of like just the idea of raising your hand, putting your hand, showing up an imprint. It's just the evidence of your existence, saying that I'm here.
I was here. Kilroy was here. Well, this is
Yeah.
George Manupelli started the Ann Arbor Film Festival 63 years ago. His mantra is ignore yourself. Jonas Mika says there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, jazz pianist, says I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
Oh, that's really interesting. I think you're more. I honestly feel like you're more a tool of the zeitgeist,
Yeah.
and not just the zeitgeist, but the zeitgeist in a broader sense, in
Yeah.
the sense that there is a spirit
Yeah.
of not just of the times, but it's funneling through, because a lot of ideas do. It's like people say, "Where do you get your ideas?" And they're just, how can you not have ideas? I don't know how people don't have ideas. I'm never at a loss. That's not true. I've been at a loss. If I'm ever at a loss because I write every week. I mean, I write this essay that I have to present every week. And literally, I just say, life is meaningless. We'll start there. And just let it come, whatever it is. It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't have an obligation to say this or that. I don't
Yeah.
have an obligation not to say this or that. I just have an obligation to create something that people will listen to and hopefully won't feel like their time was wasted.
Very good. Jeffrey, can art making be egoless?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It can probably seem like it, and I can't. I don't know what that would mean for me, but it probably seems like some people do things without. I mean, that's what Kubrick was talking about. Like, you don't want people to see your intention. You don't want them to notice the artifice, the things working behind the scene, what you're trying to do. And I think there are people who achieve that, and they're not trying to achieve it. They just do it. They just happen to be fully in the moment. And but I'm not that guy.
Dude, you're really smart and you're a good listener. I appreciate that. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Oh, compromise.
There's no
I
right.
know. I mean, I really value conviction. I really get mad when when I see people betray their convictions, like when John Lennon came back from obscurity and was like, "Yeah, no, I'm just gonna have fun now because all that stuff is just me being shallow." And this is like, no, I felt betrayed, and I didn't like that. I thought he should hold on to his convictions, and I think if people should have the conviction that things
Yeah.
should be more fair and equal than they are, but
Yeah.
In day-to-day living, you've got to play ball with the universe, and it's not gonna the universe is gonna cheat, and you gotta roll with that.
There's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right, Jeffrey. So, tell me, yeah, how would you rate these three elements in your accomplishments? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
I'm gonna say luck first, because there is no reason that I should even exist. And then skill, I'm gonna. I don't think ambition played any role, because anytime I've had the ambition to, I don't. I think ambition has been the enemy of everything. Uh, I think skill, whatever skill I have, I think people respond to well done, well said, well put things, and they don't. Yeah. I would say luck is at the top, skill is next, and then ambition is a problem, it's a stumbling block. It shouldn't even be. I mean, obviously, people, you gotta have hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta have a passion for it." If you don't have a passion for it, why are you doing it? And I'm like, you know what? That's too much pressure.
Yeah, that is.
Forget it.
Yeah.
It's just like enjoy every moment like it's your. It's like, no, no, I don't put that on me. God,
It's good.
I mean, people do that. People,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fine. That's good for them.
Is perception reality?
Sure, but it's not all of reality,
Yeah.
and it gets a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
So, there are many realities, and when they come up against each other, depending on who has a stake in which reality, uh, they got to fight each other. They got to fight them out. They got to compromise.
Tell me one major element. I think you already answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Tell me one major element of your creativeness that's changed and one major element that stayed the same.
So I'm thinking about. I think I trust more that I should just put something, that I should get something done, like just write the thing,
Yeah.
throw some paint on paper,
Yeah.
see what's there, and then work from there.
Yeah.
Because the blank piece of paper, while there's nothing but freedom, there's also nothing.
Yeah.
And you got to have a skeleton. You got to have a bone, at least, for a skeleton. You just yeah. It really took a long time for me to learn that. And I think that's just,
But that's changed.
that's about as close to a work ethic as I have.
That's changed. What stayed the same in these years you've been creative?
I believe in the meaninglessness of life.
Yeah.
I think it has no meaning, and searching for it is ridiculous. And that's why that's kind of good and freeing.
That's good.
And I keep returning that. I thought I'd had a breakthrough at one point. I was like, wow, I really figured out it really is meaningless. And just like all those other things of Taoism and existentialism, I'm like, yeah, that feeling is gone. I'm just, yeah, of course. I've always
Yeah.
felt that. I've always known that.
I was trying to do this workshop proposal with a filmmaker for Ann Arbor next year, and it's called Useless Art. And I'll send you some of the quotes. You might already know them, but they're pretty amazing. And it's important because Stravinsky gave a lecture on how music means nothing. I have a whole lecture on nothingness too. But here's Moshe Feldenkrais. He says that he works with movement and healing. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength. rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Ooh. I think uh, not being able to get along with people has become a lifestyle more than an irritant.
But what's it?
Uh,
How is that a strength? Because you mean through
well, it's
your
because now I know how to be by myself, and
to be by yourself and find satisfaction being by
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, I really had a hard time with that. I was like
Yeah,
lonely all the time,
yeah.
painfully so.
Well, Jeffrey, that's interesting because both Krishnamurti and McLuhan say violence is the human search for identity. So you're talking about self. Any thoughts on that line? Violence is the human search for identity.
I'm not sure how to understand that. To be honest
Yeah,
with you,
yeah.
uh, I don't. I don't. Are they saying when people commit violence, they're trying to find themselves, or is the act of trying to find yourself by nature a kind of violence? I don't
That's
know.
great. The great thing is that you interpreted it that those two ways. I think both of them were after that. McLuhan was never after saying a concept. He was actually asking you to think about something. It's what he did was the major thing he did was teased people to believe his percepts were concepts. So when they call him a media theorist, he's like, no, he's not a media theorist. But he would go, oh, go along with that because I'm in academia and that's what they want, theorists. So it's very interesting you said that because Alan Watts nailed it. He says everybody's trying to figure out who they are. If you find out who you are, you're fucked.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
When you have to knock something down.
That's good. Not somebody, but something.
Something. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily productive when you have to knock somebody down because that somebody could be stronger than you and hit you back. But if you just need to knock a wall down and get out of somewhere,
Yeah.
just the frustration and anger can. In fact, I wrote a scene recently in a novel of this guy just trying to dig something the wall of a mine that is like the pipe cap of a pipe bomb that
Yeah.
was shot into the wall, and it's just like his anger is what allows him to find this piece of evidence of sabotage.
Yeah. What's the function of laughter?
Well, there's so many. Uh, it's just your body's way of telling everyone you're having a good time. It's
Gurdjieff said laughter is the function of laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no. So here's it's pretty good, but here's Steve Allen. You know, Marshall loved to quote Steve Allen. Behind every joke, there's a grievance.
that's funny. What does that's like the no good deed goes unpunished kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like there's behind every joke that that's it. I don't think so. Not behind every joke.
That's the word I dispute also. Just behind joke, there's a grievance.
Yes. I have grievances against some things that Steve Allen said,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
not going to air them here.
Yeah. But this is well, I asked my friend who writes comedy with Robin Williams way back. He says, can satire be destructive? And he says, that's the job of satire. But if me or you do a cartoon in a certain country and they kill us, that we might regard dying as destructive. But Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. In fact, Greg Zappa wrote a great line. Watch the Nazis run your town. Now go home and check yourself. you think we're singing about somebody else. What is the function of satire?
I think the function of satire is to provoke. One of the functions of satire is to so the most dangerous function of satire is to provoke the authority to expose what jerks they are, and
Yeah,
and I think that can be extended to everyone. I think it is the function of satire to the not to tell people that they're jerks, but to expose their own jerkdom to them
yeah,
to others. Actually, it
yeah,
doesn't even have to be to themselves.
yeah.
Although it would be great if they could go, yeah, I guess I am a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean,
We say,
I get that from satire.
yeah,
When I write it, I go, wow, I'm really a jerk.
yeah.
Why
It's
did I
like
write this?
let them stick their own foot in their own mouth. Don't force it. Let them trick them to. It's like the subgenius say, pull the wool over your own eyes.
I mean, it's like it was like the debate last night.
Yeah.
It was like all she had to do was say that his rallies where people got bored and walked away, and it's just he blew a gasket.
Whoa.
That was
She's
fine. Oh God! And when he was leaving the lectern, I saw a photo, and it just looked like he had to go to the bathroom so bad.
It's also Sam Goldwyn's quote. You might love this. As for the critics, don't even ignore them. I mean, that's what he
Sam
does.
Goldman.
Yeah.
Wait, who's the one who said cinema or movies are about asses and seats?
I don't know, but I'm gonna look that up.
Or maybe it's a line from a movie. It's like, what's your movie about? It's about asses and seats.
Yeah, I want to know the source on that one. That's really good because it's back to Hitchcock. Now we're dueling jokes and quotations. Hitchcock said, you know, you make a movie as long as someone can hold their pee, 90 minutes or whatever. But you know, McLuhan and Hitchcock's favorite joke was, being a writer, you might appreciate this. Two goats are right over here in Culver City in the back lot at Sam Goldwyn's or at David O. Selznick's studio, and they're actually eating film coming out of a film can. And one goat turns to the other and goes, "The book was better."
I like that. I like goats.
Yeah, yeah. But here is a line that's often said, Jeffrey, you create what you resist. In fact, Bob Goldthwait morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So basically, what's your thoughts on this? You create what you resist. Not you, Jeffrey, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that?
In certain ways, you can't really help yourself. Some people make their own problems, so that's one way that happens. But I don't know if that you sort of. I mean, you're a product of the world, and you do recreate it just by explaining what you're feeling about it and what you think about it. So you do sort of recreate it. You kind of can't help it. I start to
Yeah.
think about like the way the deconstructionists would go and say, yeah, you know what he's doing, he's saying this, but you know what he's really doing, he's doing exactly what he's saying he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
And
It's like when you say, oh, you're stingy, and really your fingers saying, I'm stingy, but I'm going to lay it on you so I can suss out what the fuck's going on here.
JD Vance is a champion of that now because he's
Yeah.
like, the Haitians are eating all the pets. And meanwhile, he's eating Haitians. So he's been, no, it's true. He's been eating them.
Yeah, my big question, no one says, do they taste like chicken?
And people say that human beings do not. Human beings are more like pork, apparently.
Right.
That's what that's what the anthropologists say, that the people who eat people have told them.
That's the world news headline. Cannibals are not eating people anymore because they're so filled with pesticides.
And microplastics. Do you know how many toxic chemicals are in that guy?
My dad, when our hippie health food craze came in, we'd say, "Dad, don't eat that. It has preservatives in it." And he goes, "I need all the preservatives I can get."
A friend of mine had it was like he wrote that in a play somewhere. He wrote like, the people who survived the nuclear war are going to be the people who have eaten all the Twinkies and things, and
That's
that
it.
will make them resistant to radiation.
That is it.
He was ahead of his time, this guy. I'm not going to tell you his name because you won't know it.
Yeah.
And he's in Brazil now. I think he's a translator. He was a painter when he went down there, but I think he's doing more translation now. But he was doing a parody of the Weekly World News, the idiotic conspiracy theories, and like now we're just inundated with those things.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. If he wants to be on my podcast, I'd love to ask him all these questions, because here's the next one, Jeffrey. Louis Buñuel says, "I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it." Most people go, "That's great. I love that." And one guy finally goes, "That's bullshit. Because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it." So I morphed it into this question. If the journey is more important than the destination, why do we have to name or seek a destination?
Maybe it's just to have a direction to go.
Yeah.
You don't have to name. You can just go north.
Yeah.
I'm just going north. But everybody. It really is about having to tell people what's going on. Because if you just tell them I'm walking north, they're not going to get it, and they're not going to help you, and they're not going to feel sympathy when you say, my feet really hurt from walking north. They go, "What? Why are you walking north? You're not even going anywhere." But if you tell them where you're going, they can identify.
But it's interesting, because the people who changed the world forever were called flaneurs in Paris in the 20s, Hemingway and all these writers and artists. And they would just slack off. Back to the thing. They would just drink coffee and slack. And like James Joyce, the king of them all, said, "I had an epiphany in everydayness." It's like psychogeography. You can stub your toe and have an epiphany, or you can read some classic, Dante novel and have an epiphany. So
Yeah.
here's Eartha Kitt. Truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever. So then I asked the question, Marcel Proust asked, "On what occasion do you lie?"
On what occasion do I lie? When I think it will shut people up. When I think it will get me out of a tiresome situation.
Yeah.
That's usually it. Like,
Yeah.
because it's so like if I'm about to get in trouble, I
Yeah.
might actually tell the truth because it seems more important. But if it's just that I just don't want to deal with this nonsense,
Yeah.
I might just lie to avoid the petty annoyance.
I asked for 90 minutes. Can you go a little longer?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Here's a couple more. Alan Watts, 5 questions just off the top of your head in a couple words. 1, who started it all?
Funny, we have every week on our show we have a question from hell,
Yeah. Oh,
and
good.
this week's question was, who are they and what do they want?
Oh, that
And
is good.
we got a lot of funny answers. So who started it all? That guy, that troublemaker. Actually, I don't know, mom.
Oh, that is good because that's my favorite bumper sticker. I rarely get to say this. Question authority, but not your mother.
Well, that's a good one. Oh,
Okay. Second Alan Watts question. Are we going to make it?
yeah, yeah, I think so. I think we're gonna make it. We're not gonna make it in good shape, but we're gonna make it. There's
Three.
no, there's no other way to do it.
Yeah.
3.
Three. Where
Mm-hmm.
do we put it?
In our pocket.
Oh, I like that. Four. Who's cleaning it up?
Boy, it's probably me.
Five. Is it serious?
Definitely not.
Dude, you are so. Frank Zappa would say, I'm very serious about being not serious. Okay, Jeffrey, I'm dying to hear this one. How do you find peace of mind?
Don't look for it. Give up. Give up looking for it.
You are brilliant. Don't look for it. Okay, if you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I would say, see, people said things to me that I would say, and it didn't register. I would say, you don't have to learn anything. Just do a lot of listening.
Yeah. That's a brilliant.
Also, you know what? I might say learn a language,
Yeah.
because that's one of my 12, even 12 is late. If I
It's
could
even
get my 5-year-old self to learn another language, I would just love it.
Oh, I'm there with you all the way, man. I didn't. Yeah, I wish I did. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Over. The guy who invented it said
Has the
over.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. 95% say over. 5% who say under have their reasons.
I'm sure they do.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Man, there's so many. What I want it to be, or what would it be? I guess if it's my autobiography, I get to decide the title, right?
Yeah, hello, yeah.
All right. He wasn't so bad.
They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Lavender.
If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Well, put it in a park, and it should be made of some nice thing that won't hurt anything. Something. Yeah, should it be durable? I don't know. You know what? It should be in a forest, and it should be carved out of a giant mushroom.
There you go. I like that. Tell
And
me
my body should be inside it.
inside it. Very good. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Well, how can it be good if I never? Oh, okay.
It's good. It's good. You never had it, but you never want it.
I think children.
That's the answer I get often. In fact, Mike Kelly having kids. Okay. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I guess I'd have to wash the shit off with the vomit. There's nothing really else to do. I mean,
So
it's I'm
you might know this woman, Ruth Draper. She said the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. Being a musician, playing in front of people, writing plays, doing all the activities you've done, that sounds good, but how do you do that?
You really have to prepare. You got to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
I wish there was another way. I wish people could just, I mean, maybe there are people. I just don't think that there are.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be people who go, I can freestyle. I'm just going to go up here and nah. Got to prepare. Got to rehearse.
Leonard Cohen says the only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play in your creative process?
I guess I know every time I'm writing that I'm going to probably, I mean, I don't know how I guess I have a readership, but I feel like it'd be real easy for me to lose it. It'd be really easy for me to just, the risk is that that people aren't going to care.
Yeah. This is Viola Spolin. You know this woman? She pretty much started. Yeah. She
The
says,
choreographer?
no,
Oh no,
Viola.
the theater lady.
Yeah, she helped in Chicago, helped start improv comedy.
Oh yeah.
Okay, if she says if the audience cannot see your struggle to achieve something, they cannot root for you to achieve it. What role has struggle played in your creative process?
I mostly struggle against inertia. I think every day is a struggle. I mean, every morning, well, not every morning, very many mornings, I have thought. But this is also part of depression is that you don't really have a good reason to get out of bed,
Yeah,
and you got to come up with one. Luckily, my brother, who I'm taking care of, has two dogs who need me to take them out, so
yeah.
that gets me out of bed. But yeah, the struggle is always to do the next thing, whatever it is.
It's really good. Frank Zappa says, don't stop and keep going. So a couple more and we're out of here, Jeffrey. I really appreciate your time. This has really been fun.
This
Utah
has been
Phillips.
fun. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously, I'm talking about myself, but
well, that's what this is about. Okay, so Utah Phillips says anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
nobody.
Yeah,
I mean, all really the community has to
yeah,
make the rules.
yeah. What's the difference between narrative and story?
Narrative is like the thing that carries the story. Like story is a whole thing. Story is a narrative is the path that the story is carried along, I think.
Yeah. It's funny because experimental filmmaker Hollis Frampton said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. Can you forget to die?
Can you forget to die?
Yeah.
You mean like just it slipped your mind and you've been immortal for thousands of years?
Well, that's it. You put it in the context you want. You can either take it literally or metaphorically. The question.
Interesting. I hope so, because
Yeah.
I'm a forgetful guy. I hope to one day wake up and go. I mean, it happened. I did wake up suddenly and was 62 and an old man. I was like, that. Well, I don't remember that happening. So why shouldn't I forget to die and wake up
Very
one day
good.
and go, what?
In fact, I would suggest add that questions to questions from hell, because it's the question most people, when I ask, they go, "What?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm just asking you a question. Can you forget to die?" And they can't figure out. They go, "You mean can I forget that I'm going to die?" I was like, "No, you put however you want." But I did that narrative story question, which you handled so well. That you were the first person I asked that in 40 years. I just got that question, and you did it really good. But it's because this great writer told me a couple days ago that he was told that narrative doesn't lie, story can lie. Would
Hmm.
you go along with that? Narrative is the thing that carries the story, it's the path. That doesn't lie. Story is the whole thing. How would you take that narrative doesn't lie line?
I think he should take that. I think he should take my definition and try to see how that definition jibes with his idea because
Yeah.
I don't no to me I don't think that's I mean narrative I understand I think a little
What
bit
he's
that
what he's
that you
trying what yeah.
that you can't be inauthentic
Yeah.
once when you're telling but when you're narrating you have to if something's not true in it and it's detected not true in the sense that it's not not real not organic
Yeah.
somehow false somehow a mistake people can detect it and that can get in the way of the path and the story then I mean the story can still exist but it
Yeah.
won't be persuasive the narrative is not
Yeah.
persuasive.
What's a question that remains unresolved for you?
What should I have been doing? Yes.
How has writing shaped your behavior?
I think it's made me more. Huh. I think it's really allowed me to pursue good and bad habits.
Yeah.
So it's really been a double-edged sword. It's just uh, that's pretty much
That's
it.
that's back to how do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? We don't use the words good or bad. We say services and disservices. And how did you flip the disservices, what they call bad habits, into good habits? I think
Mhm.
you've proven that. You're like, hey, I'm going to take this and flip it to my advantage and use it as bread and butter. Okay, so what's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Oh, I think this is a hope. So this inspiration is a hope. It's not like I really think this for sure, but I really feel like in some ways this fascism, this idea that it's okay to crush people when it's unnecessary to cause unnecessary suffering uh at, and hurt people so that you get some advantage from
Yeah,
it. The idea that you can get some advantage from it. I think that it's really coming close to an end. I
yeah,
don't, I have no evidence for that, but I just feel like, and maybe people, maybe like Walter Benjamin and all those guys just before the war, just before the Nazis took power, were like, yeah, this is it. They're really going to, they're so absurd. They're just going to have to collapse. But
yeah,
I really feel like that right
yeah.
now.
It's good, man. If you don't have dreams, your dreams don't come true. I'm totally with you, man. I mean, enough already. We tried war. It doesn't work. Get over it, you know? I mean, come
We
on.
really, we really haven't tried a lot of things that
Yeah,
you know really would be easier. And this is another thing about laziness. if more people were lazy, if
Yeah.
all the people who are like, oh, I'm a super genius and I'm going to conquer the world, I'm going to do this, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
settle down, um, we don't need your ambition. That's, go take it somewhere else. Did you read The Dawn of Everything by David Graeber?
I know him
And
and I should. He loves McLuhan, Dawn of Everything. David is an amazing person.
he was, yeah, sadly he died, but
Yeah, sadly he
um
died
and I forget he wrote it with
with
another
another
guy
guy.
who's David
No,
Wengrow is the other guy.
yeah, it's all important. This is
Yeah.
you look at it,
But,
it's William Blake. We become what we behold.
but also the way he seems to, one description of one society or one structure of society early on was that there was a place for those kings and people who aspired to be kings, and that was outside of where people were actually living life. It's
Yeah,
like, go outside, you
yeah,
randy teenagers or whatever, you berserkers, you can go over there where we're not busy growing the food that you're going to try to steal. Just go there and do your crazy rituals and psychotic war games or whatever. And there used to be a place for those people. There used to be a place for a lot of different kinds of people.
yeah,
Now now they're like sucking all the resources out of everything.
yeah,
It's like we need to put them back in their corner.
yeah. Like,
I
chill
think.
out, dude. Just go golf. It's all right. We're done with you. Okay, two more, Jeffrey, and we're out of here. This is Thornton Wilder, 1928, who happened to be a big fan of Finnegan's Wake. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
What's it really all? Oh my God, killing time. Um, like spending time reasonably enjoyably and
That's good. Killing
not
time
getting
is
greedy.
we've got content. We've got to fill content here. Like your thing. This is hell. I need content. Yeah, I'm sorry I cut you off though. Killing time.
No. Yeah, just getting through the hours that are gonna come. There's so many ahead, and I really, I just wanna not. When I was a kid, I was actually bored. I'm never bored now.
Yeah. That's the Aborigines in Australia have no word for boredom. Does that mean they never get bored? No, they just probably have a different word for it. What gives what gives you the most optimism?
The most optimism,
Yeah,
a lot of things. One thing right now is the idea that uh, things that aren't even animate objects, that are not animals or plants, can learn, that the universe learns how to be the way it is. Because
yeah,
somebody did a whole experiment where if everything happened by chance, so if amino acids learned how to, or turned into proteins by chance, there wouldn't be enough space in the universe for all the mistakes. Like there's just what you, so if it was all uh, random, just like these strands randomly coming together in wrong ways and eventually coming together in a right way, uh, you'd still have all those wrong ways, and there'd just be too many wrong ways to fit in the universe. The universe would have to
yeah,
be like 9 times the size. And so the theory was that uh, amino acids learned how to twist themselves.
yeah,
And once they learned it, they repeated it. They didn't mess around with making mistakes, making a lot of proteins that didn't do anything, that really didn't turn out to be proteins, that just were dead strands of amino acids floating around.
Yeah. It's really good, Jeffrey.
But I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think you made a lot of sense to me, and I learned a lot, and I'm really grateful for our time together today, because the first question I ask is, what is the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. The last question, what gives you the most optimism, is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. It's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time and energy today.
Thank you. You are very encouraging.
Well, I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, but I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Well, I'll see you in Venice at some point.
Please do. Look me up. I look forward to that moment. Thanks again, Jeffrey.
You're welcome. Thank you.